Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edward Stourton, and I'll be hosting this webcast and news conference on behalf of the Templeton Foundation. The Templeton Prize is one of the world's largest annual awards made to an individual, worth £1.1 million, and it's given to a living person who's made an exceptional contribution to affirming life's spiritual dimension through insight, discovery, or practical works. It's awarded by the John Templeton Foundation, and it's a cornerstone of the Foundation's efforts to serve as a philanthropic catalyst for discoveries relating to human purpose and ultimate reality. Of course, the purpose of this event is to announce the name of this year's laureate. And imagine I'm opening a metaphorical envelope with a flourish that it's the Oscars. And let me say that the winner is, sitting on my left, Lord Sacks, the former Chief Rabbi. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jennifer Simpson, who chairs the John Templeton Board of Trustees. She's the daughter of Dr. Jack Templeton, and we should mark with great sadness his passing in May last year. She's also the granddaughter of Sir John Templeton, the legendary global investor and philanthropist who founded the prize back in 1972 and created this foundation.
It is a great joy and privilege to be here today to represent my father, and to announce that the 9 Templeton Prize judges, representing a wide range of disciplines, cultures, and religions and traditions, have chosen for the 2016 Prize Laureate, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, the former Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth, who has spent decades bringing spiritual insight to the public conversation through mass media, public lectures, and education. The John Templeton Foundation stresses that questions, when framed in humility, create an open mind which makes it possible for us to learn. From such a passion of learning, he saw the possibility of new glimpses of a larger timeless truth, which is beautifully summarized in the motto of the foundation: how little we know, how eager to learn. One of the human characteristics that my grandfather revered the most, the one which he felt was rare among contemporary religious leaders, was future-mindedness. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks has always been ahead of his time. And thanks to his leadership, the world can look to the future with hope, something we are very much in need of right now.
Jennifer, thank you very much indeed. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce the Right Honourable Michael Gove, Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice.
First amongst equals, primus inter pares in the Jewish community, is undoubtedly Jonathan. And I think that the way in which he has used a combination of deep spirituality and also intellectual power to shape our nation's conversation has been remarkable and an amazing force for good. And Jonathan has also pointed out most powerfully and most recently how important it is, as we've heard, to counter the toxic threat of extremism with a message of love and compassion founded in deep spiritual values. He was nominated for this prize by the former Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey. He's celebrated by figures including the Prince of Wales, who described Jonathan rightly, I think, as a light to this nation. And on behalf of Her Majesty's government, it's a pleasure to be able to share this platform and to celebrate the life and work of a truly great Britain. Thank you.
So John had this combination of awe in the presence of the cosmos, of generosity and what we call chesed, loving kindness, toward other people, and humility toward himself. And somehow he had the wisdom and grace to take these principles and, by investing in people and programs, bring them from the margins to the mainstream of academic life, of scientific investigation. So here is a foundation and a person and a set of principles that I so admire, and to have this chance to be associated with them is deeply appreciated. I think we're at a turning point in the history of civilization. And turning points happen when there's a revolution in information technology. We are living through now instantaneous global communication, and we have not yet learnt to turn that into a spiritual blessing. On the contrary, the best users of the web right now are the people of anger and violence and hate. And I have to say that, to my mind, one of the most beautiful things that our hero Moses did at the end of his life is, at the age of 119 and 11 months, when most of us are thinking of taking things a little bit more slowly, he turned to his followers, the next generation, and said to them in Deuteronomy 23, "Don't hate an Egyptian, because you are strangers in his land." Now, the Egyptians oppressed and persecuted and enslaved the Israelites. Moses' whole role was taking them out of there to freedom. So why was he telling them not to hate the Egyptians? Answer, because if he didn't do that, he would have taken the Israelites out of Egypt, but he wouldn't have taken Egypt out of the Israelites. He was teaching them what I see as the most important spiritual message of the 21st century, which is to be free, you have to let go of hate. There is no other way. And that is what we as a global community should be urging in the education of all the world's children. Not to hate those with whom we must one day learn to live. Thank you.
Okay, well, we get to the meaty part, I suppose. Now it's your chance to grill Lord Sacks on some of his ideas. Yes.
There's no doubt that you're spiritually rich, you're now cash rich. Can you clarify how you are going to use the prize?
Yeah, we are, 2.5 years ago, I left the Chief Rabbi to try and do these 3 things. Number 1, take the message globally. Number 2, speak to young people. And number 3, use the new technologies to take that message globally. And hopefully to inspire young people to lead in the kind of open and other directed ways that I've been trying to teach. So we have been doing this in a very limited way thus far, and this wonderful prize will allow us to develop that work in many directions.
Do you want to say something about that, Jennifer? Does that sound like good use of the money?
It sounds like a fantastic use of the money, and something that was very near and dear to my father's heart. I mean, these were, I think that he strongly believed that Sir John left us with a mission and vision, but that it wasn't supposed to be just a mission and vision that was in communication with people up at the top or with academics or elites. It was a message that needed to be shared for the mass public in order to create sort of the changes that were interesting to my grandfather. So we applaud your choice of what to do.
Yeah. It touches very much on the subject of this book, Not in God's Name, about religious violence. And I got the feeling that, although in many ways it's an optimistic vision, there is a strongly pessimistic strand to it, because you are saying that religion has in some way failed, that we've left this gap that's filled by extremism.
We have failed. So I really want to make a distinction that to me is absolutely fundamental between 2 ideas that are often confused. One is called optimism and the other is called hope. And they are very different things. Optimism is the belief that things are going to get better. Hope is the belief that if we work hard enough together, we can make things better. It needs no courage, only a certain naivety to be an optimist. But it sometimes needs a great deal of courage to have hope. And I've said that no Jew, knowing what we do of history, can be an optimist. But no Jew worthy of the name ever lost hope.
You think we're on the cusp of some kind of new form of religion in the world today?
No. No, we're very, very far from it. We are in very early days indeed. The truth is that religions historically, certainly the Abrahamic monotheisms, were very, very good at reaching out to people and inviting them to become members of their faith, but very bad at dealing with people of other faiths. And none of us is free of that historic guilt. Jews, Christians, Muslims. We've all had violent periods in our history. And we know what it is that leads us beyond it. What leads us beyond it is when members of a faith suddenly realize that actually we're not killing people of other faiths. The real people we're killing are the people of our own faith. This is undoubtedly going to happen within Islam in the 21st century as Sunni and Shia realize that their primary victims are Muslims. They may be Muslims of a different kind, but they're primarily Muslims. When faiths reach that realization, they say, this cannot be the way that God wants us to take. And then they come up with a solution. And it's always the same solution, which is the formal or substantive separation between religion and power. Not always between church and state, but always between religion and power.
So I'm just wondering about whether secularism itself has spiritual values that's part of this turbulence that we need to try and bring together.
First of all, I absolutely agree. Secularism has spiritual value. Atheism has spiritual value. Sometimes atheists are very spiritual human beings. But what the spirituality of secularism brings is a refusal to accept religious justification for suffering in the world, for hierarchy in the world, for exclusion in the world. Those are the points where I always feel that the secularist is His Majesty's loyal opposition. And they are formulators of great spiritual truths.
We're going to have to leave it there, but before we go, I just ask Jennifer to say a few more words.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Rabbi Sacks, for all of your comments today. I would like to thank you for your life's work. I was particularly touched by one of the things that you said in your remarks about that it's in conversation with others that truth emerges. And I was particularly touched because I could feel my grandfather just smiling by hearing that, because that really was the essence of what he was interested in this prize. Sometimes you can just explain what Sir John was looking for by just saying, well, why don't you look up our last most recent Templeton Prize Laureate and look at his life's work. And you certainly embody that. You both cover the topics of research and discovery and practical works. You cover all three. And so I just want to thank you for being able to represent what was so important to Sir John by accepting this prize. And I also want to use this time to make an appeal to all of you. You could go to the templetonprize.org website. We are accepting nominations until June 1st. So for those of you who are here and those of you who are online, I really would like to make an appeal that these prize laureates are really important in terms of being able to shape our culture and hopefully change the world a little bit. So I thank you all very much, and I thank you, Rabbi Sacks, and I thank you, Edward, for being part of this event.